What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 153, I think, of Nintendo Noise, Slipscreen Games Weekly Nintendo Podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined today by my very good friends and co-hosts, Mr. Steven Radford
Hello, hello.
and Miss Sierra Plus Ultra.
Hi.
Hello, hello, my friends. I am so excited about this episode because Nintendo dropped a direct yesterday as of recording where they gave us a bunch of new information about the Nintendo Museum that's opening up over in Japan. And then, of course, in typical Nintendo fashion, they gave us 13 minutes of information in a direct and then left out a lot of key information just for the website. So we're going to break down every single thing that we know about this place, all the things that I thought that you would be interested in knowing, that I know I was interested in knowing. So even if you checked out the direct, we'll have some new info for you here, I'm sure. And of course, our thoughts on everything that we saw, because I, for one, am pretty excited to go check it out once I make my way over to Japan.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool, and I also thought that this gave credence to some of the stuff we spoke about in last week's episode, the rumors, where we did a bit of a rumor roundup about the Switch 2, and the fact that we weren't sure what they were going to show in a direct in August. Seems like this one did turn out to be true. There was a direct around Gamescom, but it wasn't about games or movies or anything, hardware or anything that we had considered on the podcast last
Nope.
week.
Nope.
Not even theme parks, right? Like literally, I wouldn't have guessed on this one. Had to happen sometime, though, I guess, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of blown away by it. I remember we saw this is really the first time we've seen it. All we saw previously, it was like, here's a picture of a building and we're building a museum. And now we actually get to see what's inside. And it's just like, wow, okay, this company actually takes their history and their legacy very seriously, unlike some.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really nice thing to see, because I don't know if either of you remember this, but it haunts me to this day, where I remember the original reveal of Mario Maker and Miyamoto and Yokoi were like handling the graph paper that Miyamoto drew level 1-1 on. And I was like, bro, why are you touching that? Like, you don't have gloves on. It's like, but this should be in a museum. Now we have a museum for just such these important.
And imagine it's not in there still.
That's
Especially have a guy who waves it around.
Waving everybody in like
with the original graph paper.
And it's like, it's just absolutely insane. But it is really cool to see them do something like this and like have a place that, especially like the further and further we get removed from things like the NES, and like, for younger players, right? Like there really is I guess a need for that history lesson, right? As those games become, um, in some cases tougher to access, but in some cases just like tougher to play, and understand.
And now you can play them with a giant controller where someone's on the A/B buttons and someone's on the D-pad.
Yeah, it's nuts. There's a lot of really like just goofy, fun Nintendo stuff for sure. And I was pretty pleased to see them have that like interactive element, because like as much as I know I would be the type of person who would just be excited about a room where I can go look at dusty old Nintendo stuff. It is cool that they wanted to have that interactive element, and you can see how much some of the stuff on the first floor will like very much appeal to like children and younger attendees and everything.
Oh man, seeing the fact that they've gone pre-NES and like going back to the legacy of them making cards and toys and things that I think a lot of people don't even realize that that's where Nintendo's legacy came from.
Sure.
Even having stuff like the Ultra Hand, which obviously became a function in Zelda in Tears of the Kingdom, and being able to play with that, having those little rooms set up so you could play with like the little softball machine that they made. It was just so cool and so thoughtfully done. I just thought it was incredible. Like that whole floor where you can play a game of cards like with other people and just like walk on the cards. It looks insane.
Yeah, it's really cool that they're getting into like cultivating spaces, because like obviously working with Universal was kind of like their first attempt at something like that, and seeing them kind of do something like that in-house is really cool. So let's start breaking down what we learned, I guess, and we can kind of, go through it beat by beat. Obviously we were led through the museum by Miyamoto. And there's a couple like cool little fast facts that he threw out. Like the museum itself is the original factory where Nintendo made their Hanafunda cards. And there was another game he said that they made that I had actually never heard mentioned before, but it's escaping me right now. But that was their original playing card factory. And then during the like Famicom NES days, that was where they did quality testing back in the day. So it's like he said it was really nostalgic for him to be back in that building because it was literally where he worked when he got hired by the company and everything, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, he mentioned a couple of times like his like history with the company when they showed off some of the pre NES and Famicom video games that they did, like the TV game 6 and the TV game 15, which is when
The
he
color TV
started at the
game
company.
15.
The color
Yeah.
TV game 15, yeah, which is when he started the company, and then obviously they kind of transformed and moved towards like arcade games, and that's where he kind of came in with Donkey Kong and stuff. And yeah, it was really cool to see, and it's nice that they've transformed that factory, which I presume was just like abandoned and not used for a number of years, and have now got like a whole Mario themed plaza out there that when you go straight into the place, it just looks so inviting compared to what it would have previously looked like, where he said like it was just full of trucks that he can just remember going there. It was full of
Yeah, it
trucks
was
with
it was an
the
industrial park,
Famicoms going out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. I think honestly, my only like note about the design is I do wish that the outside looked a little bit more whimsical. It's like a little like it's a little gray, It's
Very
Even the
Office
gray
Park.
logo is a bit like, "What?" I
Yeah.
feel like it was like
yeah.
in the Wii era
It's
where
red,
everything was
baby. Come
gray, yeah.
on.
I know. Be unserious. It's Nintendo.
Especially because it's like you have the Mario Plaza outside. Like it's obviously like it already looks pretty unserious. It's just
I
Yeah.
like
know, and
why
then
is
it's
there
I
no, go
know,
ahead.
like, fun cartoon character and then doctor's office, like,
Exactly. It
the
has like
vibes are not clicking.
it very much has like a doctor's office, like exterior vibe, which is a little bit whatever.
You go
But
see Dr. Mario inside, so it's fine.
there you go. I did think the plaza was really cool though. That's like a nice touch. That they turned that into like a cool little garden area that you could like get photos with the kids and everything. Because there's some rules about photos we'll get into later. But where the kind of like tour proper started was up on the I guess you would say the main exhibit floor that's up on the second floor, and that's like what you would think of when you think of a museum proper, right? Like you go up and they have these giant controllers or like the handhelds in some cases that are like up on the wall, and then they have like an entire kind of like row for each console that has, I believe he said, every game Nintendo published on each platform, and each one has the different boxes for each region that it was released in. And then it also has like a television with angled speakers so that when you're standing right in front of it, you can like hear the music from the game and everything and kind of get that experience. But not have to have like a ton of like cross volume. Like they actually showed it moving from like one to the other and how the sound was isolated. And I just thought that whole area looks incredible. It's such a really immediately striking look. It kind of feels like an E3 setup or something like that. And
It
yeah,
does, doesn't it? Yeah, looking at the photos, it really does look like an E3 setup. Like when they're unveiling a new console and they've got all of their previous consoles leading up to now, and they'd like show off, the Game Boy, the Game Boy Color, the Game Boy Advance, all leading up to like the DS. Yeah, it just looks really cool. The fact that they've kept, I mean, you never know with the museum. Maybe they didn't keep all of these things over the years, and they had to go away and acquire some of them again in order to get them for the museum. I would imagine some of that was the case, but being able to see, Donkey Kong for the NES in North America and Donkey Kong for the NES, the European packaging, and then Donkey Kong for the Famicom, and having all of them on display, it's just it's really nice to see, and it's so colorful, like seeing all the different colors of Game Boys and stuff that they had, and like the wall that was just about these are games we made. where you play when you move your body, and this was like a whole period of Nintendo's history where this is basically all we did was like games on the Wii and like
There was stuff
here's
there
the
I've
Wii
never
Fit.
seen before too. Like there was like an exercise bike. I was like, they made an exercise
Yeah.
bike. What the
They
hell?
made a gun? Like,
Oh,
two guns.
and then like the buggy for the kids as well was like weird as well. Like when they
Yeah.
got to the pre video game stuff. But also I noticed a copy of Twister. I don't know if they made Twister in Japan or if
Maybe they
they
just
like
like
licensed
they
it from
like
Mattel.
imported it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there was like a bunch of board games and stuff there that like I didn't really know that they did board games. Like obviously everyone knows the like the cards stuff and like
Mhm.
I remember learning about like the shooting galleries that we there's an exhibit about that we saw and like
I never knew about that. Like in they
oh
refurbished
yeah,
bowling alleys to make shooting galleries. That was
like
a
yeah,
really cool thing to
digital
learn.
clay pigeon galleries,
Yeah.
which was like it was like a really big trend for a little while. But yeah, and they also had like a period where they were they briefly had like we'll call them romance hotels.
Do you know, I Googled this right before we started recording because I wanted to see if this would, one, make it in the museum, and two,
Oh,
if it was true. And apparently it's an urban legend. It's never been like
well,
verified as being true.
really?
Yeah. I
That's
couldn't
crazy.
it's
I've
like
read that in multiple books. That's crazy.
yeah, apparently there's no evidence that they did actually operate the hotels, at least not Nintendo
Interesting.
Company Limited. But it could have been an offshoot of Nintendo that did it. But no, there's no evidence that
Mm.
Nintendo themselves did.
Yeah, maybe it was another business like owned by the oh, I can't remember the name of the family. But the family that like ran the company literally up until Iwata was the first president that wasn't,
Mhm.
you know, from the family that started the company. But yeah, so it's like you hear about the toys and all those things, but there was like this Disney board game. I knew that they had done trading cards with Disney characters. I didn't know they like licensed board games and stuff like that. It's just all these, and there was like a copy machine, right? Was one of the things that
yeah.
he showed. It's like
Yeah, bizarre. Like, I
random.
don't know. I didn't really know what that did. Was it just a photocopier, like a Xerox?
I don't know. I guess we'll have to find out. It definitely I thought it was really interesting though. It made me want to do more digging into that time period, and it makes me realize like how much there probably is that is still not well explored, just because, if you don't speak Japanese, right? Like there's only a certain amount of information you're going to be able to get that's not through the filter of somebody that's specifically interested in writing about video games or something, right?
Yeah.
So really, really cool. Really cool to see that there's so much history that even for somebody that's read multiple books about it, that there's still more to learn.
Yeah. I don't know
Really
if you
exciting.
knew this, but there's also in Kyoto, where the museum is, a hotel that was built in the building of the first Nintendo offices. Yes.
Really?
So, like, there
Whoa.
you can also see some history about the company before they made video games and, like,
That's really
existed
cool.
the playing cards and shit. Yeah. It's
He's
wild.
booking that for his visit.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I'm like now
Very
I'm putting
nice.
that one right on the list. That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, so I mean, I think that to me was definitely like the big highlight, right? Is like I am so excited to get up on that floor and just get to like spend some time up there, and just kind of drink it all in. Um, but yeah, then we had a lot of focus on the first floor, which is where all the interactive exhibits are. So there are 8 of them. And I did think it was interesting. Maybe I'm misremembering. I thought that Miyamoto said that he was going to show us 3, but he showed us 4. Right? Because there was
I
the
don't think the big controller counts because they're
they listed
charged.
on their website.
Oh, do they? Because I know they're charging for some, right? You get like 10 credits you can use,
So
10 coins.
here's what I was thinking. Let's go through the exhibits and then we'll talk about the cost because
Mhm.
the cost is kind of a bigger thing and there's some elements there that I think people have probably not seen. That it gets a little bit complicated. So he showed us the interactive floor, right, which was the Shiguruden is, I believe, how you say it, which is it says explore how you can issue, excuse me, poems using smart devices and the giant screen on the floor. That was the first thing he showed us on the first floor, and then he's like, "We're going to show you 3 of the 8 activities," and that was when we saw the Ultra Machine batting cages, right? Which
Which was so cool.
so
Love-
awesome.
It was like
Love-
I'm going into an IKEA living room and then I'm just going to hit some balls against the wall. It was really funny because each of the rooms looked different as well. Like he was like they're all
Yeah.
set up slightly differently, so you can pick which one is more your vibe.
When you hit something, it like interacts with you and everything, which I thought was really cute. Just watching Miyamoto in the batting cage is also just delightful. You know, he's having a good time.
Oh,
Yeah.
Miyamoto's great. Like, it's going to be a real shame when he either decides to finally retire or move on from Nintendo if he ever does.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine it without him, you know? So we also saw the Zapper and Scope experience, which is where it's like inspired by their old school shooting galleries, and they took the Zapper from the NES and the Super Scope from the Super Nintendo and have kind of like recreated them to have this like Mario themed shooting gallery, which also looks really fun. You know, like kind of standard. You know, if you've been at like Disney or Universal, like you've seen this kind of thing before. But cool to use use the Nintendo, light guns that we all remember. And then the big controllers, right, was the other thing that we saw, which is where it was Nintendo, Super Nintendo, N64, and Wii, right? And you and one other person, or I guess three other people, if in the case of the Wii, it looked like all collaboratively control a controller and play through a game. And
That is wild.
the Wii is especially wild because there's like Miyamoto's like, can you imagine doing that with a Wiimote? And they show like two people trying to hold and maneuver this giant remote.
Can you imagine? They're doing it right now. We're trying to.
Our scientists are trying to figure it out. It's
I
absolutely
think that's so funny. You can experience the Wii as you never have before and never will again outside of these four walls. Like,
it definitely is
so
like an
wild.
insane idea.
Don't play it the way as your friends or relatives remember it. Like, play it like fucking 100 times the size. Like,
It's particularly funny because they have another exhibit. So if you go to the Nintendo website, which we'll link to down below, there's a link to the museum proper, and they have like all of the information that you might need that exists. Some of it's not filled out yet. That wasn't gone over in the direct, and they go over the other 8 exhibits. They have another exhibit that's called Nintendo Classics, where you can play NES, Super Nintendo, and N64 games, and no Wii. So the only way for you to play a Wii game here is this insane configuration of 2 to 3 people trying to, use their entire bodies to play through a Wii game. But trying to play Wii Sports that way should be pretty interesting.
Are they just running the Nintendo Classics on like Switch Online or something? Is that why it's only these 3 consoles?
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. I guess it could be, right?
Like they're
Like,
just running a Nintendo Switch maybe with a custom app that they've built. So it's just like, oh, play the games we've already put online for you, but you can now play them in a museum.
over 80 games. So the other ones that they showed off that we didn't get to hear about were the Ultra Hand SP, which is where you can use the Ultra Hand to grab balls rolling down lanes and drop them into pipes. So
Love that.
yeah, sounds fun. Then there's the Love Tester, where 2 people will join hands and work together on tests that measure their love level. This was another thing that Nintendo sold at one point. And then there's the Game & Watch experience, which is where you'll get to play Game & Watch games using your shadow, which sounds very interesting.
Which is so cool. I want to play chef with my shadow so I can like bounce the sausages across, cook them and get them to Princess Peach. So that would just be so much fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for all these things. The upsetting thing is that you will not be able to do all these things in one visit. So
Potentially, because they've not confirmed it, right? Have
nope,
they?
they have. Yeah, so if you go to the cost, right, on their website, admission extremely reasonable. For an adult ticket, it's roughly $20 converted, right? It's 20 to 22, depending on where in the West you are. For a youth ticket, which is from 12 to 17, it's about $15. If you're a child age 6 to 11, it's about $7.50. And if it's a preschooler ages 5 or younger, it's free admission, which is great. So, it's definitely a cheap visit to go and check it out. But as part of that, you need to use the digital coins that Steve mentioned. And that's how you actually get access to these interactive exhibits. And every visitor is going to be granted 10 coins. And they said that the number of coins required will vary depending on the interactive exhibit. And visitors will not be able to experience all the interactive exhibits with 10
Ooh.
coins. And then it says the number of coins required for each interactive exhibit will be announced at a later date. Visitors may experience the interactive exhibits as much as those 10 coins allow. Consider which exhibits you want to try and the number of coins required, and then experience the interactive exhibits of your choice. Please note, you cannot purchase additional coins.
I was
So,
just going to ask that.
yeah, so there's not even a way for you to, spend money to get to do all those things. And I guess the thought there is that would, artificially limit people's time in the museum, right? Because otherwise you could basically just treat it like an arcade, right? And just keep buying coins and never leave.
Mm.
And, I could see that being a problem in terms of
You could say everyone can
turnover.
have one go on each of the machines.
That's my thought, is why not give us enough coins to experience every exhibit at least once? Or if you want to do more than one time, you have that option.
Yeah, because I'm not bothered about playing
Yeah.
Nintendo Classics. I can do that at home.
Right.
But I would probably want to do all of the other ones.
Yeah, I don't think that's fair. Because what about the people who are traveling, who are not
Exactly.
from Japan and just can't casually come back to try the rest of them? Uh, do they just not wanna figure out the logistics of that? Is that just, like, we just wanna, like, get this thingy open and figure that out later, baby? But, like,
I don't know. I mean, my guess is that it's a size issue, that like because they wanted to turn this building into the museum, that it's like there's going to be a certain
um,
amount of people that they can safely get in and out, right? And that if they want to make it profitable enough, they need to have a certain amount of turnover, and that the only way that they're going to get people to leave, in a timely fashion, particularly if you're a tourist and you're like, I'm only going to be here once, then you probably want to spend the whole day there, right? But like for them, they probably want you to go upstairs, see that exhibit, spend your 10 coins, hit the gift shop and get out, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's also the additional things you can do, right? Like the arts and crafts stuff, which we'll probably get onto. But I part of me can see why they would do it, but I do think it's
It's
a real
just
shame that they
it's
just don't give you
specifically a bummer for
enough
folks like
coins.
us, you
Yeah.
know?
yeah.
Or maybe give the option to pay a little bit more so you can do all of them, and then, not ridiculous number of coins, maybe 15 coins instead, so it's enough to play all of them once, and then you can kind of move on to the other floors. But yeah, it's a weird one. I don't know if they'll reevaluate that as the museum's been open longer, because I'd imagine it's gonna be very busy at the beginning. I mean, they're doing a lottery-based system at the moment, aren't they, for tickets?
That's actually a good point. Yeah, maybe that's the thought, is that, hey, like at the beginning, this is going to be insane and people are going to be like traveling to come check it out. All the local folks are going to want to check it out, and they're just going to be at capacity for probably a few years, right? Before demand starts to slow down. And then that might be when they finally are like, okay, now if you want to spend more time here, you can spend an extra $5, $10 and get another couple of coins or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't like your local fly fishing museum where you go and it's, like, gonna be dead and empty every
Right.
single day.
You know what, Sarah? We have really great museums in my area of the country. We have the Gas Museum, which is a museum all about natural gas. It's great.
Exciting.
And the Knitting Museum. There's that as
Oh,
well.
that's lovely. I love
See,
that.
knitting I could see getting into because that's like a hobby, right? Like if I
Yeah.
was a knitter, I'd be like, "Oh, I'll go to the knitting museum. Here, we're
Go
going
to
to the
the
video game
gas
museum, right?
museum.
The gas museum? Fuck
Yes.
that. That's lame.
Real gas heads are gonna love this.
You gas
Top
heads."
10 stops for gas heads on your travels.
I love it. So Steve mentioned the craft and play section. So
Which I
that
love. Yeah, that was
yeah,
cool.
which is a really cute idea for sure. And that's like a workshop where you can make your own Hanafunda cards, and then you can also like learn the rules of the game and actually play with the cards that you made. So that is a separate fee, and it does require a reservation for you to get into it. But again, it's really affordable. That's like I think kind of the nice thing about this overall is that even if you went all out and bought a bunch of stuff, like it seems like a pretty cheap day. Because to do the card workshop where you make the cards, $14 to learn to get lessons to play, only $3.50.
I know, it's so cool. I really, really want to make the cards and like take those home as a memento. Like they're
Mhm.
just like absolutely stunning, and that they give you the templates and all the paints and things to do it. It just and
Yeah.
it's like it's an hour. You're paying an hour for like an expert to teach you how to make a Hanafuda card. It's just like, oh,
I know. I didn't expect them to have classes. Like, that's a really nice added value to the visit. It's not just, yeah, just walk through the halls and look at some stuff, look at the Game Boys. Like,
Buy some
there's
swag.
it's super experiential, which I appreciate.
And
I
like it's the exact type of thing you can imagine like if there's like a school trip there or something like that. It's like, oh, what a
Yeah.
cool activity, right? Like it's awesome.
oh man, I can't wait to see what's in that gift shop, Sierra. Like, there's gonna be so much cool stuff. I really hope there's a poster of that grit graph paper you were talking about, Pete, of the level
Oh,
one.
that would be
I would
That'd be
so
love a
cool.
print of
crazy.
that.
Oh,
I
that would be
really
awesome.
hope that there's a lot of educational materials. Like, I don't buy books anymore, but when I do, it's art books. It's, like, books about, like, the development and making of media I love, and that's something I, like, rarely, like, ever see beyond, like, the big art encyclopedias you can buy at Nintendo New York City. I want more. I want more.
Yeah.
So, like like, it's not super accessible, like fun coffee table reads, but, like, I think anyone who goes to something like this would want, a
Definitely.
souvenir like that to take home.
Especially, like, I'm very excited now that, like, Google Translate is just getting so good that it's like I can actually read a book in Japanese
Yeah,
probably if it's, like, written at, like, an 8th grade reading level, which, like, any book like that probably is, like,
yeah.
that's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm right there with you. Like that's the type of stuff I'm just not going to be able to pass up. It's
No,
funny.
yeah.
My friends and I who are planning a trip to go in 2026, we agreed that we're going to pay to bring 2 extra like duffel
Oh, you've
bags
got
Yeah,
to,
you
yeah,
have
just
you've
for
got
to.
to.
swag.
Yeah.
Just for swag.
If there is anything I've learned from watching other people go to Japan, you have to bring extra luggage or, like, buy extra luggage there and ship to have that all sent back to the US.
Yeah.
How do you never know when you're gonna go again. Like, how do you just not prepare for that outcome? It's just inevitable.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if I'm only going once, I want to make the most of it, right? And
Yeah,
that includes
Mhm.
buying as much stuff from the Nintendo Museum
exactly.
as I can fit in a bag.
Ideally, you get to go again, but, like, say this was the only trip.
That's the plan, right?
Yeah,
I'm trying to go multiple times, but it
yeah,
is all the way around the world. So, you know, you're definitely gonna want to make the most of that visit. Uh, they didn't show us anything in the shop, which I thought was a bummer. I would have loved just a quick pan across of some of it, but like I'm imagining they're probably still getting some of that stuff ready because it doesn't open until October. So,
Yeah, the
but
shop might not even be finished. It might be the last thing they're gonna
yeah,
do.
they did show
yeah,
the museum logo on Miyamoto's shirt. I'm imagining that's one of the things they have available, but other than that, who's to say?
yeah.
That
They've
would be
said
one
that
of the things
there's
I don't care about, like a gray square on a t-shirt. I'd rather
yeah, I
have
don't want that
something
one.
that's more meaningful.
They
Mhm.
did that there are going to be, like, official merchandise, like, themed after Nintendo stuff, but there will also be, like, a lot of exclusive items, which I think we could all guess, but that's obviously the stuff that I'm excited about. Sorry, I wanna let Sierra get off the bench because I know you're excited about this one. They got a cafe. The only thing on the menu is the Hatena burger, which Steve looked up, and that means question. So I guess it's like the question block burger. Sierra, go off.
And there are up to 270,000 combinations possible with this burger. And bear in mind, like, we're going off of all we have here on this page. The
2
cafe,
sentences.
2 sentences, like, all dietary restrictions mostly accommodated, 1 burger. This is crazy. I don't expect a full-fledged restaurant for something like a museum, but burger? Just
It's so funny
burger?
that it's like, yeah, you can make a hamburger. You got 207. It's like, what if I don't eat red meat? Like, what if I'm a
It does say there
vegetarian?
is a lacto-ovo vegetarian option.
Okay. All right. Cool.
How I need to know where the other combination what other ingredients are facilitating the creation of 270,000 possible combinations for burger.
How many times do you think you have to go to try all of the combinations of
What do you mean? It
burger?
would be 270,000 times.
No,
That's how
would
many
it? You
combinations.
you could order like 4 at a time, I
okay.
You
presume,
could
right?
bring, like, 10 friends,
Yeah,
and that
this
cuts down the amount of trips a little bit. You know what they don't mention? You can only play some of the interactive exhibits, like, a handful of times. You only get 10 coins. You can only do some of the exhibits. They don't say how often you can go and eat a burger.
how many burgers before they drag my ass out of there?
There's no limit on burger. There's
It's like you just have all these Americans who are like, you can't make me leave the Nintendo Museum. I'm gonna sit here and eat burgers until I have a heart attack.
There's, like, a follow-up direct, "Hi, it's me, Shigeru Miyamoto. We've introduced a new rule for our featured, Hatena Burger Cafe. You can only get 1 burger.
One burger.
There's a 1 burger max per head."
Do you think that there's gonna be like, because I guess the thing that I'm so interested in about this is it gonna just be like I go in and I build my own burger, or are there gonna be like preset burgers and then you can like edit them? Like, is there gonna be like
I'm seeing it's like a
Nintendo
Five
themed
Guys.
burgers or
I pick what toppings I want. That's how I'm imagining it. Like,
yeah?
do I want beef, pork, chicken, fish, vegetarian? Those are probably like the base options.
It says hamburger though.
Yeah, but then they also mention vegetarian options, so there's got to be something that's
All
like
right.
not beef.
You can ground a fish.
Yeah, and salmon
Why
burgers
not?
are pretty popular in Asia.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You know what? I'm down. Well, you know what? I'll have to report back. I'll tell you how many combinations I was able to stomach.
Sounds good. We're just gonna get a Discord message from P like, "Hey guys, I'm in jail in Kyoto. I ate too many burgers."
Just a photo of me with like a black eye.
Yeah. Maybe
Just
not
like-
jail, but hey, I'm banned from the Nintendo Museum.
Because I have a black eye and just like my stomach bursting out of my Nintendo Museum shirt. It's like, I had a magical time.
What did you two think of the style of the cafe? Like the 1970s style, and then there's that like beautiful Zelda stained glass in there.
I love it. I love how much it
Very
looks.
90s McDonald's coded.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Like it has that like very brown cafeteria in the 90s energy with just this beautiful Nintendo art. It's awesome.
I miss the 90s and 2000s because everyone who designed a fast food restaurant was like, we have a vague idea of what interior design is like.
And
We
it-
think we
There's just a deeply unhinged nature to it.
I know.
And
Wait, it does look. I want to clarify. It does look like a lot nice. It does look very nice. Like there's a clear color palette and intention here, but it reminds me of like how like McDonald's like they were a little more whimsical, like with
yeah.
their interior design, and that's what this reminds me. It's very warm. It's warm.
If
Not a
you're
lot
in
of
the
people do that
UK,
anymore.
it looks like a Little Chef or a Wimpy burger. That's what they look like. That's what it looks
Thank you
like.
for the-
Burger?
Thank
A
you for the
wimpy burger.
conversion.
That's so cute, wimpy. I think that's like the most like America versus Britain thing I've ever heard because we have a chain here called Fat Burger, and it's like that's the
You know,
dichotomy.
what's even more American about it is Wimpy was here first, and then McDonald's came over, and now Wimpy's got like 3 restaurants left in the UK. So it's okay. America won.
Oh, you hate to see it.
Yeah, how does it feel? How does
love-
it feel, England, to be colonized? Huh?
It's
How does
great.
it feel?
It's great. You
I
know,
love the
nothing beats a
idea.
chicken McNugget, so I'm fine with it.
I didn't know about Wimpy Burger today, and now I'm gonna go on a deep dive. Not to get too. I'm gonna Cut it here before we go off on a
I'm
tangent.
imagining like next week Sierra shows up for the show like in a Wimpy Burger shirt. You know, it's like
Color hat and a flag.
McDonald's is like celebrating their 50th birthday here. That's how like new to the country it is. I don't know
Wow.
how old it is over there, but yeah, it's only 50 years
Fucking like
old.
200 years old, I think.
that is
Wait, that's
crazy.
impossible. Hold on, 100?
No, it's definitely not 200. It's not as
200 would
old
be
as
older-
America.
It would be older than America.
Everyone knows that the founding fathers love to chop down on chicken McNuggets before fighting the Brits,
Filet-O-Fish.
before going after the redcoats. Yeah, what they don't tell you actually is the Boston Tea Party. That was all McDonald's coffee.
No, they were chucking fries into the ocean
It was
instead,
the first
instead of the tea.
it was the first event sponsorship. That was
Fuck by McDonald's. Oh my god. All right. You know, there's a few more things I want to tell you guys about the Nintendo Museum. But before we do that, let me remind you that this episode of Nintendo Noise is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of August. They are, of course, Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valens, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, aka Sobi, Steve Stompy, Susan Likes Cats and also Boobies, Ty the Dude, Voodoo Vic, and Wakahula. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. Y'all the reals to the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. Remember, if you want to go check out those sister shows like the Flip Screen Games podcast or the Steam Deck podcast, if you want to go and show your support to the show, if you want to become a member of the community in the many ways that you can get involved, you can do all that and much more by heading over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you'll find everywhere we are all over the great, glorious, disgusting internet. However you choose to get involved, thanks for being a part of it. So, few more little tidbits I found picking apart the website that I wanted to share. The number one thing that I found to be disappointing, aside from the aforementioned coins issue, right? No photos on the second floor for the exhibits.
It's like
Which is-
being in the Sistine
I
Chapel.
thought that was like you couldn't post photos unless you added some sort of enlightening commentary. No photos whatsoever.
It says photos are not allowed on the second floor exhibit, which is, and I wrote, this was my commentary. Sorry, I added this, which is devastating.
Imagine if they put that on their own website.
It's a direct quote, and then I added my commentary, and I usually put that on a separate line. Which is devastating, of course. Yeah, so it's just straight up not allowed. You are allowed to take photos in the, like, anywhere else pretty much. They do have rules about what that means. Like, you are not allowed to disturb other guests. There are some kind of stipulations to like what is allowed or versus what isn't allowed. But yeah, on the second floor in the exhibit itself, no photos.
You know what? I can kind of understand it. It takes away one of the main draws to the museum for a lot of people. If you know what's in there, I can watch a video on YouTube of someone walking around and showing me everything. Do I need to pay in order to go? And I can kind of understand that to some extent. But if I want to take a selfie of myself at the Nintendo Museum or see something that's really cool that I've never seen before and I'm next to it, or I'm taking a picture of it to share with, friends and family, that should be allowed. But it's a real difficult thing to police.
And I get it, like, because it's another one of those things of like, if they're concerned about time, right? Like, if they want everyone to be able to enjoy the museum in a good amount of time and not dilly-dally, like not stopping at every exhibit to take a photo is gonna make people move a little bit quicker, but I mean, for me personally, like, I am definitely disappointed because I mean, those are the things I'm most excited to take a photo of, right? Like, it'll be
Yeah.
cute to take photos of, me and my friends like swinging the bat and all that kind of stuff, but like, what I want is photos of these items I've never seen before, or that there are not many photographs of, so that like when I'm home and I want to look back on the trip and remember it, that I can have those memories triggered, and that I can, or like if I want to use them for like to do, like a piece of art or something like that, right? Like it would be nice to
you
have
can
those
do-
as a
You can do
reference.
this on the other floors, though, right? You could do it on the first floor. You could do it in the cafe. You could do it at the art
Yeah,
classes.
but the exhibit's what I care about.
It's
I
just the
know
exhibit.
it's like seeing box art for games that I haven't seen since my childhood. It's not. I have a terrible memory. Like anyone knows me personally, I take photos of everything 'cause, like, that's how I remember. I see a photo, I'm like, "Oh, I remember what it was like to be in that place and,
Totally.
like, experience that." I understand that it's like the draw is you wanna go there and see it in person, but, like, this is not attainable for many people, like, and to go back again, and it's simply not the same as, like, Googling, I don't know, like, Skyward Sword box art, the Wii
Yeah.
U,
Yeah.
like, and looking at it like a product of it. It's not the same.
I
And
think
then also, like, looking at the individual consoles that they release, you can see something sort of similar in Nintendo New York. They always have a display case of older consoles, but it's like everything. It's everything that's not available in the US.
Yeah, I'm right there with you where, like, I wanna have that ability to, like, trigger those memories for myself, and I think to your point, like, if you're somebody who, like, doesn't have the the financial means to travel to Japan, or if you're somebody who, is, like, disabled or something like that, and, like, maybe, like, travel like, go being at a museum all day is, something that you're physically not able to do, right? Like, it'd be nice that those folks would have the ability to kind of, like, experience this somehow, let alone, like, there will come a point where Nintendo will change these exhibits and what's featured in them, and at that point, it's like, do we not then have a record of those things? And it's like,
Hmm.
it would just be nice for them to I get it, I understand, and I think it will be something that will probably enhance the experience of being there physically, and I would love to have the ability to interact with it that way, selfishly.
I've been to museums though where some museums that let you take as many photos as you want. Like I went
Right.
to the East German Museum in Berlin, and that was fine. They let you take photos of anything. And then I went to the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, and they just don't want you taking pictures of anything. The same as the Van Gogh Museum. They do not want you taking pictures of any of the art, nothing there. If you want to see that art, you have to pay to go there. So I can understand why they've taken this stance. And maybe they'll relax it. Maybe they won't be so, you know, heavy handed with the policing of it, and they will let you take like the odd picture, and it won't just be like, they're shouting at you and ripping your phone out of your hand in order for you to delete it. But I'd imagine if you post the picture, then that's probably where you run into some problems.
I did think that was
Yeah,
interesting too. They actually have rules for posting, and it's a link to the guide that they released for content creators in 2018, where they're
yeah.
like, if you want to post a video or a photo that you recorded, like, you please make sure you comply with the following guidelines. Otherwise, it seems like they may ask you to take the photo down, which is interesting. And there's also a few other additional rules that seem to me to be, like, specifically trying to limit content creators negatively impacting other people's experience, which I think is probably wise, which is that there's no large equipment, no selfie sticks, like, no, like, large video cameras, no, like,
Yeah,
DSLR type like,
Can
it's
we
that's
include
fine.
iPads in this? I remember going to the Colosseum and I was behind someone who was taking photos on their iPad the entire time, and I could see
Ugh,
nothing as part of the
I
group.
hate boomers that do that. I gotta be
Oh,
honest with you. It's like, bro, you have a phone, right? Like, why are you using your iPad? Why
I
are you
know.
holding a giant tablet as a camera?
They need the grip. They need more surface area
They can't see the
for their
screen.
motors. That too.
It's like, look, I maybe get a camera with a viewfinder then, all right?
Really? Well, good news, no man on the street interviews in the Nintendo Museum.
Yeah, right? Like, thankfully, there won't be stuff like that. They'll be able to limit, like, vloggers and those sorts of people. Like, I think, like, not that I have anything wrong with somebody that wants to make a video like that, but,
Absolutely.
you know, at the point where it's getting in the way of other people enjoying the museum, and if it is a small space and there's not a lot of room for a lot, like the cafeteria, right? I think the limit is like it says 130 guests, right? So it's like I could see that being the kind of thing where if somebody's like sitting there shooting a video, it's like, well, that's
and
you could,
Pete's in there all day anyway, trying out all
I'm sitting
270,000
there
combinations. So
trying to eat as many burgers as I can before they make me take insulin, you know? So the other thing that they called out that I thought was worth mentioning, because I think it's something that probably a lot of Nintendo fans are probably interested in, right? Is that they have a rule against cosplays. No cosplay, no costumes, nothing like that. And then they also have a decent number of rules about like what they consider appropriate attire as well, which I thought was interesting. I don't know
I looked
if
some of these up. Some of them are Japanese law
that
that
was
you
going to be my question
yeah,
is like, I don't know if those are like just
Huh?
broadly Japanese law and they're putting them on the website because they
yeah.
know there will be
You can't dress
international.
up as a police officer. So you're
I
not
Right.
guess
allowed.
oh, yeah, that's fine.
Which
But
yeah, that makes sense,
who
right? Like
wants
that's
to do
pretty much the
that?
rule everywhere. You're not allowed to do anything that hinders the facility's operation, right? But then there's a few other things that I thought were interesting. Two other ones that I think are just like obvious, right? Is like you're not allowed to wear something that obscures your identity, like a mask or something like that. Um, unless it's worn for medical or religious purposes. So obviously, like face coverings are very common, right, in Japan. But yeah, not like a ski mask or something like that, right? Which is like for obvious reasons. And then anything that has a sharp point or edge, which I okay, fair enough. Um, another obvious one is anything that's offensive, right? Like you're not allowed to have something that like is, like you know what I mean, a patently offensive, like inflammatory thing. There's also something that is about like promoting like political ideology, things like that. There's like some rules about stuff like that. But then they have rules against things that expose quote a large amount of the wearer's skin or reveal their undergarments or that drag along the ground, which I also thought was interesting. So it's like there's I guess a level of like skin exposure or like bagginess that is, and again, I
Or a
don't know if
cape. You might want to wear a cape that
sure.
drags along the ground.
As long as
Is
your
that
kids
is
are
that
dragging.
they doing that a lot in England?
Yeah, we wear them everywhere. It's really it's really fashionable. Just wait till it makes it. It's big in Europe. They debuted it at, the Paris Fashion Show, and I'm sure it'll make it across the pond at some
Oh,
point.
yeah.
I'm down. I'll become a cape guy, you know?
Me too.
Sierra, you're already as like a deep sword guy. Like I have a sword, obviously, you can see it behind me, but
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
like
yeah.
a real sword guy. I feel
You
like
might even have the same replica. Is yours also the straight blade?
yes.
Yeah, same. The one
Oh
because
yeah.
like, I had someone point out to me it's not an exact replica because it should be wider towards the hilt, like in the
Yeah.
video game, but
Well,
mine's just a straight blade.
you can see mine. It's a little. It has like a bit that's wider, but it's not like fully wider at the base.
Mhm.
So it's like it kind of yeah. It's like a little off, but
Yeah,
looks like we probably have the same
but
one.
it's yeah, hell yeah.
It's awesome.
Um, my friends and I almost, like, made a pact to become a cloak-wearing friend group, but we couldn't decide on, like, where to buy the
What
cloak.
cloak?
So it just the idea died.
Sierra, I'll get a cloak if you want to. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, I'm in.
let's do it.
Okay.
So yeah, a couple little things there that are just I think things that I could see being relevant for folks that are traveling to this, right? Like if you were planning on cosplaying again for like content or something like that, that's going to be a
Even not
no-no.
content. Like I can see kids wanting to dress up as
That's the thing,
Mario or
what if a
Link.
little girl wants to wear her Princess Peach costume and doesn't understand why she can't
Yeah.
wear it to Mario's house? I don't
I
know.
I think the rule is probably in place for the same reason that you're not allowed to do cosplay at like Disney parks, which is that like it can create confusion with guests, right? Where like if you are like an adult in a very good cosplay of like Princess Peach, a child might come up to you and be like, "It's Peach," and it's like,
Right.
oh, then it's
And
like
then
you
there's
don't
some
work there,
complications
like
there.
yeah, and it's like if you
Yeah.
do something and hurt a kid or whatever, right? Like then it's on Nintendo and it becomes very dicey and it's like but I think when you're talking about like a little kid, it's probably a different story, right? Like if you have a little
Yeah.
kid in a Mario hat or whatever, it's like, all right, it's probably not a big deal, but it's probably mostly to limit adults that are convincingly passing as like a professional, because it's probably just to protect themselves legally, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And again, though, there's probably also like an element of it of just like we don't need people coming in really super elaborate costumes that then everybody's trying to stop and take pictures of, and that's slowing down crowds. And if you're like the person who comes in like a super elaborate Bowser costume and you're bumping into people and stuff, it's like
Smashing in the glass of the
yeah, it's probably just like nah, like nope. Let's just put the whole kibosh on that. But I mean, overall, these like couple little things aside, I thought it was a really, really cool presentation. It got me really excited to go. I was already excited to check it out, but um, yeah, I mean, it's like the total dream for somebody like me to just be able to pour over all that stuff and sit there and like have a like dedicated amount of time with each exhibit is something that I'm just so excited to do.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, and I'm excited to see what they've got in the gift shop. I'm sure they'll have some great stuff. Hopefully, they make up for the fact that you can take your own pictures by having like a picture book or something there that you can at least kind of jog your memory with Sierra, so that if you do go, you can pick up a book to remember it or something.
Yeah.
That'd be great. I mean, if they could give me like a coffee table book of all the exhibits, that'd be more than enough for me.
That would
Yeah.
be sick. Yeah, that would be enough for me too. All like that stuff aside, it's a really beautiful museum, and I'm really excited to see it whenever I get to Japan one day.
Well, we'll have to make it sooner than later one of these days now, right? October. It's just a few weeks away. So definitely if you guys want to write in with your thoughts on what we saw, definitely make sure you do so all the ways that you can by heading over to flipscreen.games. That's the website where you can find all the links to our sister shows, our Patreon, our Discord, however you want to get involved with the show or the community, you can find it over there. So make sure you write in for next week's episode of Nintendo Noise because there's not going to be a Nintendo Direct, so perfect time for a mailbag episode. So if you've got a burning question in your pocket, or you've sent in a question that we've been sitting on, I'm sure we'll get to it next week. Any final thoughts here, gang?
I'm just so excited to see what everyone puts in their Hatena burger, and I think everyone should let us know what their combination will be. Just guess what the combination is going to be, what you're going to put in there.
Real quick, just right off the rip, you can change your answer next week if you want. What's your burger? What's your go-to burger? Mine, the Hangover burger, fried egg, bacon, medium rare.
I
Cheese.
really like a kimchi burger. Pop a little bit of kimchi on there, a bit of gochujang mayo. It's great. It's really nice.
Cool.
This is so crazy, but I really don't eat burgers that often, so I don't think I know.
Don't have a burger order?
I really don't. Burger, aioli. Fried egg sounds amazing. Mushrooms.
Okay.
Mm.
Like a little I almost said shrimp. Spinach.
Okay, sure. Fried shrimp.
would
Let's
be-
do it. Why
would
not?
be sick. Um, I don't know. I think it's so fun when they put French fries or like a hash brown on it. That's
Oh,
cool.
I like that on mine as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Let
a
me
hash brown patty.
Yeah, let me figure out what I like in a burger. I have discovered I need to do some soul searching in this way.
Yeah, I gotta take you to my favorite burger spot.
I would love that. Oh my god.
They've got like a lot of fun, custom fancy burgers like that. So
Yes.
we'll have to do that next time you come visit.
Sick.
All right, gang. So make sure you write in with your burger orders. So you're ready to go
For
when
your
it's time.
potato burger
You
order.
gotta get your potato burgers ordered.
You have 270,000 options.
And only a few days to figure it out. So make sure you get those locked and loaded, folks. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Nintendo Noise. For the crew, I've been Pete. She's been Sierra. He's been Steve. We love you. We'll see you next week.